Hello and welcome back to AweSam Adventures. It's been a month now since we got back from our road trip, excluding our brief attempt to restart in San Francisco, which was foiled by the flooding of our condo. Anyway, I've now had the time to look at, crunch, and color code the numbers to answer the inevitable question, how much did that cost? So yes, today I will be going through the cost of our 33-day long road trip. I promise to try and not be super boring about this and remind you of 7th grade math, but fair warning, my mom is a 7th grade math teacher, so we could be fighting genetics here. No, Mom, it was a joke. No, I didn't mean it. No, Mom, your math classes are super fun. Okay, so let's math this up. In 33 days, we drove an estimated 3,800 miles through 10 different states, plus Canada, and I'm not even counting the 1,000-mile drive we did to end the trip from Portland to LA when we basically just raced as fast as we could down the coast. If that's too many numbers, then just remember that we drove a lot for roughly a month. Now, I actually really like to keep spreadsheets, and I'm pretty good at tracking money, so of course, I decided to do both for this trip. I built a very, very simple spreadsheet that was basically just an expenses tracker. During the day, while we were out, I would note down everything that we spent in the Notes app of my iPhone. And the next time I had my laptop out, whether it was that day or a few days later, I would input all of these expenses into this spreadsheet. As you can see, I've color-coded different expenses in order to categorize a bit easier when it came to compiling my top sheet. And I also made the numbers more aesthetically pleasing so that you could almost forget that they were numbers. Okay, time to answer the main question. How much did we spend over 33 days driving around the western United States and Canada? $5,122.90. This breaks down to an average of $155.24 per day, so since there were two of us, $77.62 per person per day if for whatever reason you want to think of it like that. If you're lost again on the numbers, it was roughly $5,000 that we spent. Starting out the trip, I was really hoping to come in at around $150 per day, so I'm pretty content with being just slightly over, especially because the car accident doubled our accommodation one night, and we didn't end up camping as much as I thought we would, because, it turns out, I like real beds and walls. Who would have guessed? Literally anyone who knows you would have told you that, Sam. In fact, I think some of your friends did actually say that to your face before you left. As to be expected, our most expensive days were in the cities, with our most expensive day overall being a day in Denver, and our cheapest days were in the parks, with our cheapest day being only around $50 in Yellowstone. I broke down our expenses into categories, which I color-coded and made into a pie chart of even more pretty colors to represent how that $5,122.90 was spent. As you can see, our biggest expense at nearly 47% of all of our expenses was accommodation. Could we have done this cheaper? Yes. Could we have camped more? Yes. Could we have stayed at $50 motels instead of $90, almost could call them hotels? Yes. Could we have done all of this with me, Sam, having equal say in the decision making? No. I'm not the kind of girl who necessarily needs a 5-star hotel or even a 4-star hotel or even, as I learned on this trip, a 3-star hotel. But I did learn that my tolerance threshold for what I'm willing to stay in is higher than I had liked to think before we embarked on this trip. I really like and value clean rooms, beds, walls, showers, Wi-Fi, and camping was really, really hard on me. So I had to learn this about myself and accept it. I've done that and I no longer feel shame. After accommodation, our next biggest expense was food, and I totally anticipated this one. While in my fantasies, Birdie and I would eat out only once or twice a week and cook at our Airbnbs and be super cheap every other day, I knew even when I was imagining that that was never, ever, 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 ever going to happen. Now, we did still do a lot of subways and stuff at that level, especially on driving days, but if you are better people than us and have a less pretentious palate, you can easily save a further $200 or $300 here. After food and accommodation, our expenses drop off quite quickly. Gas, being one of the things that people immediately think of when you do a road trip, came in at only 10% of our total. In fact, if you break it down by mile, we spent less than 15 cents per mile, and this category also includes things like public transportation, and parking costs. So actually, it's probably even less than that per mile. Now, remember that we did drive a Mini Cooper for the vast majority of this trip. So we had a very small car with pretty decent mileage, and that definitely helped with the savings here. For comparison, when we went up to San Francisco, we were driving that big Ford Explorer rental car that we got. It cost us $100 in fuel to get from Los Angeles to San Francisco. While we were in the Bay Area, we swapped out the rental car for a Nissan Versa, which is a tiny little car that I hate, but whatever, and it only cost us $35 in fuel to get back to Los Angeles. Our other expenses were really not that bad at all. Yes, I do judge myself for the amount of money I spent on coffee, but I judge myself for that every single month of my life when I review my credit card statement, so nothing new, no surprising shame there. Categories like other include supplies we got while we were on the road that we either forgot or need to refresh, showers at campsites, laundry, and just other stuff. And it was about what I expected it to be. Same for snacks, which mostly were, again, done on driving days. Honestly, the thing that surprised me most about our budget was the cost of the tourism stuff. It was a lot lower than I expected it to be. I feel like we saw a ton of the country and Canada. We did a lot of fun stuff and had a great time. But I guess we really didn't spend that much money on activities. We did things that were mostly free. Now, there were some pricier experiences that we were planning on for the end of our trip that got canceled, like whitewater rafting in the Grand Canyon. But I don't feel like we really missed much otherwise. And I'm kind of excited that it came in that low. So there you have a breakdown of how much it cost us to do this road trip. Whilst I didn't preemptively budget this trip, I'm keenly aware of the amount of money I spend day to day on my regular non-traveling life, so I was anticipating the trip to run about $5,000 per month, and $5,122 for 33 days is pretty much right on target. Did I miss some expenses? Almost definitely. I was not perfect at record keeping. Did I miss a lot or big ones? No. I tried my best to cross-reference my credit card statements, my husband's credit card statements, and bank statements when I was making this video, but I didn't go through with a fine-tooth comb because it was really, really boring and tedious, I'll be honest. Still, this is a reasonably accurate breakdown of how much we spent and what we spent that money on. If you're trying to budget your own road trip, my biggest piece of advice is to expect to spend more than you expect to spend. It also helps to document your spending, your expenses, and this goes for your non-traveling adventures too, so that you can make sure that you aren't going too crazy, but also that you're not restricting yourself too much. Now, everyone will have different price points, lifestyles, limitations, and goals, so don't worry about matching anyone, myself included. Just be honest and real about your situation and go from there. If you know that you eat out a lot and you don't like to cook, don't assume that you'll do more of it while you're traveling, because you won't. You're only setting yourself up for failure or disappointment if you honestly think the way you live in your regular life is going to drastically change just because you're on the road. So that wraps up this fun mathy adventure. If you're planning your own road trip, comment below to share where you're going. If you got back from a road trip or have ever been on a road trip, let me know where you went and how awesome it was. I have another video coming on Thursday that'll reveal my next big adventure, so make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss it. In the meantime, I'm going to stare absently at the hole in my ceiling and see if I have a previously unknown superpower to repair it with my mind. And I hope you all go and have some of your own awesome adventures.